What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Quadcast, the show where we get real, get raw, and get loud about mental health, substance use, and the fight to take our lives back.
Each episode, we're cutting through the stigma, dropping knowledge, sharing stories, and bringing the heat with guests who have lived it and aren't afraid to talk about it.
So turn it up, lock in, and let's break barriers, spark change, and build a community that refuses to stay silent. You're tuned into the Quadcast, and let's get into it.
You can find us on Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, or email us. The Quadcast is always looking for new guests, whether you're individuals that have experienced it, you're in law enforcement, treatment programs, nurses, doctors, or anyone that just has something to say. Come share your story with us on mental health or substance abuse.
Warning, there's cussing in this video. If you don't like swear words, well, you're
watching the wrong damn show.
What advice would you give families who have loved ones struggling with addiction and legal trouble?
Hold on tight.
I mean, it's a long road. It's a long road.
If you love somebody, there's nothing that says anywhere in the laws of man that if you love somebody, you can't hold them accountable. There's nothing anywhere written that says that. So if you love somebody, hold them accountable, and in a nurturing kind of way. And when you hold people accountable, you don't have to be mean about it. You can be nurturing and nice about it, and then they're more likely to trust you. And then, as a family, that's what you need to do. Yeah, don't be dismissive. Obviously, if your kid or brother or whoever is stealing off of you, that's a very exhausting situation to live in. But nothing says that you have to give them a place to stay if they're doing that.
Right.
You kick them out, and they may be mad, but that's what needs to happen to preserve your relationship with that person. You may not recognize it at that time, but hold them accountable and hold on tight. That's the only advice I have.
And truly, I really see that a lot happening in today's society and we talked about it earlier, it's holding people accountable for their actions. I would much rather be held accountable for my actions. And there's a way to hold, like you said, there's a way to hold people accountable for their actions while still being there and supporting them.
Mm-hmm.
But justifying their actions just because they're your family or your friend or your child, anything, it doesn't do them any good. I mean,
matter of fact, it's worse for them.
Absolutely. And the better benefit is going to come from them going through those consequences that are set in front of them, because once they go through the hard road, they're less likely they are to go back through that again.
Yeah. Especially
if you do it the right way and the consequences are as steep as they should be.
I think but that's my approach, man. Hold them accountable.
And honestly, that goes for all walks of life right now. I think accountability is lacking in every corner of the country at the moment.
And if you do it in a way where they don't dismiss it, then they'll think about it, and maybe they're more apt to do better. Instead of, if you cuss them, it's going to go in one ear and out the other, and then it's not going to do any good. So just hold people accountable in a positive way and hold on tight if you have a family member that's struggling.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there would be any better way to put that, answer that question. It's obviously it's situational, and
Sure.
It's going to change with the type, from person to person, but there's still a general way to do it across the board. And even if you're not doing it 110% correctly, man, 50% correctly is going to be more beneficial than just dismissing it and justifying it will do any day.
Sure.
All right. One last question for me, and then I'll let you kind of touch on anything that we missed, but what would you like the public to better understand about the challenges law enforcement faces with addiction or mental health? You can answer that from both standpoints.
I mean, addiction in general is probably, I don't know if drug addiction is the byproduct of drug dealing, or if drug dealing is the byproduct of addiction. So I think it could go either way, kind of.
Okay.
Because addiction kind of like started in a laboratory.
That is true.
So I think those two things go hand in hand. But the challenge of addiction is like, hey, as long as people do dope, people are going to sell it. So that's the big challenge from the drug addiction standpoint is that, simply put, people are going to sell it, which poses an issue for us on many, many levels. A lot of man hours go into finding these people and holding them accountable on a criminal level. From a mental health standpoint, the challenges for law enforcement is just as we stated before. It's super difficult to. It's just it's too hard to give people the help they need, and I know why it's like the way it is, because you don't want some law enforcement officer that doesn't know what he's doing to pick somebody up and take them to the hospital when maybe they didn't. I get it. There's layers to it, and there's processes to make sure that if they go to the hospital against their will, that we did everything we could to make sure that's what needed to happen. I get it. But at the same time, like, we're over-engineering the process.
Right.
So much like we do as humanity, we tend to often over-engineer everything.
And as you said that, one thing popped up into my mind. As admin, are there other classes? Like, are there general classes out there for admin and their deputies to attend for, like children with mental illnesses that you would maybe come encounter with, or how to identify mental crisis over something else, or is there stuff out there? It's been so long since I've been away from it that I don't know what's out there now.
I'm sure there is. I've never personally attended a class with that topic. My approach has always been, if you deal with somebody with, mental incapacities, is just try to be as gentle as possible.
Right.
And it sometimes always works out. And if you're dealing with somebody that's mentally challenged, that's off the rails, then you need to put your ego aside. Right. And make sure everybody is safe and out of the situation, and then take a step back, and then let them kind of, as long as they're not hurting themselves, let them be mad. And, I'm not trying to give advice on here, I guess. This has been my approach. I haven't really, like I said, haven't attended any classes, and I don't encourage anybody to follow those guidelines or that process, because, again, that may be completely wrong, but that's just always what I've done, just, and that applies for a lot of things too with law enforcement. Just take your ego out of it. Don't get on a power trip. If this person's mentally, having a mental thing, and they're off the rails, then let's take a step back. As long as they're not hurting themselves, let's just try to figure out a gentler way to solve this problem, instead of, like, we don't need to tackle them and go to the ground and fight with them and put them in handcuffs and all this other stuff. We need to find a different way to reach that goal, but instead of by force.
Has there been any instances during your career where you have not recognized a mental crisis over thinking it may be something else, or not being able to identify it, that you can completely say for a 100% guarantee?
I don't think so. I think I've been lucky. having, maybe. I don't know if you do that. Say that as mental. Probably more medical. Yeah, that probably be more medical. Pulled a guy over one time. Well, he actually didn't pull him over. He went over the hill, and we roll up on him, and he's drunk. Like he's drunk. This guy is toast. He even
Right.
smells like alcohol. This is my first day on the job, and come to find out the guy's having a diabetic episode.
Oh gosh.
So we're like, oh, this guy's going to jail, man. Like this guy's toast. EMS gets up there, guy sugar gone, so we're like, oh. So that's a medical kind of, I guess maybe that's the question you were asked, but about mental health.
No, and that that's
But
kind of the way.
As far as mental health goes, I don't think so, man. I think I've been lucky with that, and I haven't witnessed it as far as other officers goes either. I think we're very observant to know that might be what's going on, and we know that if, depending on the circumstances and depending on what happened, we know how we need to maybe proceed. Sometimes just you can't help it. Sometimes if they hurt somebody, they got to go.
Right.
Maybe they need to get medical treatment at first, but then they got to go. If they're only hurting themselves, well, then they need to get the medical or the mental treatment, and then let's figure out a long-term solution. If they're not hurting anybody, then that's, like I said, we just need to take our ego out of it and try to find a positive solution for the entire problem.
Right. And that I think our communities are small enough and tight knit enough that most of the time as law enforcement, you spend enough time in your area that you pretty much know everybody that you come encounter with the majority of the time, and the children in your communities pretty well. So you're pretty much aware of the kids that do have those issues beforehand. And I think the parents in today's time are a lot more proactive in making it aware that their child suffers from a mental issue or things like that. And dispatch has come hand in hand over the years on going ahead and flagging most of that stuff for us anyways, so that kind of takes some of it out. But it's easily done. I could see it happening in bigger cities more so than smaller communities like ours. But as times progress, it could, with the current standpoint of our medical side of things and how we are teetering around lines of different people, I could see it becoming a bigger issue down the road at some point, maybe.
The time will tell.
Unfortunately.
We'll be there when it does.
Yeah, well, you better so than me. But I think you've answered all my questions. Do you got anything you want to add in?
No, man. I think we hit a pretty good amount of topics tonight. I'm so thankful that you're doing this. Like I said, I think law enforcement in general, you got a bunch of macho guys that won't necessarily show that inner part of themselves, have that emotional connection or that emotional conversation. And they definitely won't do it, by themselves to people, because then it looks vain or that they're fishing for compliments or whatever. So you giving law enforcement and other agencies and other people too the platform to say those things that affect them on a deeper level. There needs to be more stuff like this for sure, and I hope it takes off.
I really do. It took me years after my accident to even remotely touch on mine to anybody, going through, down at rehab, they put us through different groups and stuff like that. And man, I wasn't ready for that yet. And a lot of the things that hindered me on my mental side, because I've never dealt personally with the addiction side of anything. But the things that hindered me mentally, that wasn't the place for those things to come out, because, most of those guys, they were hurt in diving accidents or, bike riding, and they didn't come from law enforcement and first responder professions. And it's kind of hard to trauma dump on somebody that doesn't know exactly what entail, first responding entails.
Yeah.
So it made me feel not like an outcast, but who the hell is going to understand me in this group?
Yeah.
So I never touched on it down there, and I never touched on it with my immediate family right out of the gate. And I haven't done that until the last probably 3-4 years. But it took me a super long time to even navigate the waters on my own, to even address it to myself. And, I literally just started doing what we talked about earlier. You gotta let it hurt.
Yeah.
And going back through each and every scenario and reliving it to make it hurt is what had to be done. And to say that it was a quick process, it absolutely was not. And it's still not over. There's still some things that will trigger here and there. And I'm like, yep, nope, that's not gone yet. That's not ready for that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to just trauma dump on everybody. And,
A lot of people could say that too.
Mental health is a stigma in
absolutely
law enforcement, fire, EMS, because, well, yeah, we can sit around and talk shit. We can pick on each other. We can do this, do that. And we can be mean as hell to each other and still laugh about it at the end of the day. But shit, we can't talk about our feelings, Timmy.
Yeah.
That's
pretty bad. Yeah.
It makes us weak, man.
Yeah, it does. It does more, actually. The banter and the buddy, the jabs and things like that. It's toughening up your buddy is actually, and it may be, but the absence of discussing those traumatic events is actually hurting them more. You have to be able to sit down and shut up and listen to your buddy talk, and it applies in every facet, really, with life. Yes, our trauma, and you can speak to this too, as law enforcement officers, is very frequent. There are very frequent trauma events that happen. Some are small, some are big, and some are massive.
And it happens every day for the
every
first
day.
time. Every day in some way.
And and I've struggled with too, saying, well, they're not going to understand. But then, I came around to this conclusion that, trauma is different, but what it does to your mind, what is going on in my mind and their mind are the same.
Right.
It's just the two things that got us here are different. So,
and it's the two different people you perceive. Yeah. We talked about it earlier.
Perception.
You perceive things differently. Yep. And it's wild. You talked about your first eye-opening to trauma there the other day. My first eye-opening to trauma really after I got into the fire department was when Nick and Jeremy were shot out on 64. Like, that was before I even went into law enforcement, right before I went into law enforcement. And that was my first instance. And still became a cop after that. And it was like, I look back now, I'm like, damn, that should have told me something right there.
The writing on the wall.
That should have explained everything right there. And but I wouldn't change my background to save my life.
Yeah, I
Like,
wouldn't either, man.
it made me who I am now. It formed me into a good person that has good ethics, morals, and can think on my own compared to some of the people out here today that can't think on their own. And, we see that every day in politics and everything else. And, we keep touching on politics. Maybe politics is all our problem here.
Maybe.
And, but, the military, structure builds you into who you are. And I think, you've had structure longer than I have, but, if you were to stop policing today, what career would you go into that you couldn't fall back on what you've learned in law enforcement that wouldn't help you out at some point along the way?
Nothing.
Exactly, because talking to people, you have to be able to talk to people to work.
Yeah.
In any job, it doesn't matter if it's your coworkers. It doesn't matter.
Paperwork.
Paperwork.
Paperwork's got to be on point. Court dates.
Attention to detail. Making sure your shit is clean, like washing your vehicle, like the military, law enforcement, fire, EMS, whatever you want to say, structure like that will form you to advance somewhere later in life if law enforcement or a first responder agency isn't where you want to end up the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Which I would tell a lot of people, don't stay there your whole life. You got to break up the monotony somehow.
Yeah.
Or at least step back at some point and take a little break, a little mental break.
Absolutely.
I never realized how big of a stressor being in law enforcement and the fire department and EMS was until I was away from it for a few years and actually felt the weight come off of my shoulders for a while and not have to worry about when the phone was going to go off, that I was going to have to handle somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, that's a luxury I can't say I feel. I don't know, man. Probably do this till I die.
And if I had to do it over again, I would want to go back to law enforcement. I would, but I would want to go straight back into a canine handling spot.
Yeah.
As aggravating as that was, and as time consuming and problematic as that was, that's the only position that I would want to step back into.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to learn the difference between pet and partner. And when I was a canine handler, my dog became more of a pet than a partner. Yeah, definitely.
Not that sweet little angel.
Yeah. Wouldn't hurt a fly. That dog.
She actually would do bite work.
Yeah, she did bite work for me for like a day. And the problem with her is that she wouldn't bite anything that wasn't moving.
Yeah, she was.
If it didn't squeak, if it didn't move, she didn't want it. At least when I was training her up.
It never really changed. I got her to bite Rodriguez once without a sleep, but his dumbass took off running from her, and I hadn't worked with her on bite or nothing, but I'd worked with her a little bit on a sleeve, but nothing formal. She was a geef, man.
That was a good dog, though, man.
Honest to God, it was a great dog to start off on. But man, it was a pain in the ass to start off on a second handler dog.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, like I said, it probably didn't help that she became more of a pet than a partner to me.
But man, she was good though. She honestly, I'd have put her up against any dog on the street at that point.
Yeah, she was good. She was good.
Seeing
her go was very tough. It's a very tough thing.
Dude, even when I was training, like here at the house with other dogs, I could put dope out, and dude, she'd find it 10 times faster than all
Mhm.
the dogs. Like she was, you could tell that's what she wanted to do, and she loved it, and she did it till the very end. She rode it out as long as she could. And, that's one of the aspects of the mental health side of things that they don't warn you enough about is stepping into a canine role
Mhm.
and having to lose that partner.
Because it doesn't last long.
No, not long enough, especially in a working dog world, man. Like, I mean, you're looking at, by the time you get them, normally what, 2.5, 3 years old, and then you're retiring them about 7 or 8.
Lucky to get 4 years out of them.
Yeah, and it just doesn't last long enough. And I was glad that I came off the road as early as I did because it gave her a little extra time to just
Yeah.
be a dog and not have all the day in, day out bouncing around in a cruiser and in and out of it. And
Yeah, that was always fun.
shitting all in it, Timmy.
Oh God, man, that dog,
Dude, it never
that dog,
failed.
dude,
You couldn't leave her in the car. She'd shit all in it.
and that's a rebellious thing too, by the way.
Oh, she got mad.
Because you could take, I could walk her for 30 minutes and we play. And I put her in a car and get out and talk to my buddy,
Mhm.
and she'd shit in the car.
Every time. I
So
wouldn't take her to court because every time I'd go in, she'd shit in
she
the
shit in
car.
the car.
I couldn't leave her in the car while I went into the office. I had to take her in with me every time.
Mm-hmm.
If I got out, if I got out on if I had to go to jail, take somebody to the jail, she'd normally shit in it while I was in the jail. Or if I was out on a traffic stop, there'd be sometimes I'd get back in and she'd shit in it because she wanted out to search.
Yeah.
And then after I got in my first pursuit with her, I couldn't get her to lay down in the kennel as soon as I turned my lights on. She'd turn, it looked like a tornado back there.
And if I had to speed too, she'd shake like a leaf. You pop the door open. Or when I had her, if I had to pick up speed for something, or take a turn, I'd open the door to check on her, and she's in there shaking like a leaf. Not like riding in the car.
Slow down, Dad.
When I had her.
Oh,
But
God. That poor dog. I love her to death. Oh, my
it was
God.
a good dog.
She was a good dog. Honestly, I don't think you could pull another Tracy Landis dog that good. I talked to Tracy a couple of years ago, and she remembered Kayla. And
Really?
Yeah, she sent me a bunch of pictures of Kayla's mom and dad. And, Kayla's mom's still alive.
Really?
Yeah, she's
Wow.
She should be like 12 now, as long as she's still here. But
Wow.
I know 2.5 years ago, she was still alive.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and she was still doing bite work.
Especially for a shepherd.
Yeah, Kayla hardly had any teeth at the end. I can't imagine this dog still doing bite work. My God. But no, man, you got anything else to add? We'll wrap this up and
I think you got it, man.
send her home.
I think you got it.
Well, man, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, man. Anytime. If you think of anything between now and in the future, hit me up and we can always fire up a new episode.
Yeah, man.
Talk about something else.
We can go at it again.
I do know Seneca. There was some talks from Seneca about hosting some law enforcement training on mental health and identifying mental health crises over other things. I told the worker to keep me in the loop with that. So if I hear anything from that, because I told them that they should be able to get it credentialed to where you guys can get some in-service hours.
All right.
So in my talks with them, I'll keep you in the loop with that.
Absolutely, dude. I'd send a few guys to it for sure.
I think if anything, be some good training hours, but I think as time goes further, I think it's going to become more beneficial. And as, you're starting to get into the new generations of trying to get law enforcement officers to hire. And the risk of mental health and child-related mental illness is on the rise, and I don't figure it's going away anytime soon. So, I mean, I guess it can't ever really hurt.
No.
But yeah, I'll keep you in the loop on that.
Yeah, man. Definitely holler at me.
Will do, man. And like I said, holler at me if you need anything.
All right, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Quadcast.
Remember, breaking stigma doesn't stop when the episode ends. We're building a movement, and you're a part of it. Stay strong, stay aware, and stay connected.
And this is the Quadcast, signing out.